Hello, everyone. This is Regina Bale from Florida Gulf Coast University's The Water School. I'm the Environmental Education Coordinator at the Center for Environment and Society, and I'm going to take you through a quick run-through of making a ArcGIS online Survey 123 for a science lesson. So this is going to be a brief tutorial and go through all the steps with me in real time. So when you first open up ArcGIS online, you're going to see your organization's page. This is mine for Florida Gulf Coast University. Across the top, you're going to have different options. What we're going to do is click on this waffle icon, which has your apps hidden in there. You're going to see all the different applications that you have access to, and we're looking for Survey 123. It's a green icon with a spiral notebook and a check mark on it. So that'll open you up to your ArcGIS Survey 123 section that has all the different surveys that you've worked on or others in your organization have worked on. So what we're going to do is build a survey from the beginning, and this is the survey that we're building. So I want to show you kind of the final product, and you're going to see how we got there. So I'm going to click on the preview button in the lower right corner so you can see the preview of this. So this survey is made to do water quality data, but just one parameter we're looking at, which is the pH level of the water quality data. So it's something you might do in like an 8th grade lab about pH, or, earlier if you're going to go on a field trip to some location and see water and study pH. So really simple. So this one has its title already put in place, FGCU K12 pH water quality, brief description of what you're going to be doing. And then, of course, it has the location map here for the water quality testing. And then the pH of the water sample is going to be a number input question. One thing that you do not see here that you can see in the design section is the date and time. This is set up so the date and time is automatic and is done through the learner's device as they're using it. So a pretty useful survey. So the user's only going to see this. Your student learners are only going to see this. They're going to be able to pick out where they are on the map. And what's great about this is that it starts with your location services on your device, and then you can adjust it to precisely where you are, just in case they're a little bit off. And even for the water sample one, it's set so that it would only get, appropriate pH values. So if I try to put in 27, it won't accept it. We're looking for those numbers up to 14. So if I put in 7, it will accept it. So very useful. You can also see this on different devices, how it would look on a phone or a tablet. So it really depends on how your users, your learners are going to be using this. So let's head back to those surveys. Don't need to save. There was no changes there. And we're going to make this from scratch. So we're going to click on the plus new survey button. We're going to be making a blank survey. So we're going to make all of the choices of what's going to be on here. So no need for templates right now. First thing that we're going to look at on this blank survey is going to be title and description. We want to have that ready. So that way, if we have to walk away for a moment, it'll actually be saved and titled, so we won't have any trouble working on it. So I'm going to call this FGCU K12 pH water quality demo, because I'm using this for this demonstration. So my survey title, I'm going to make match. So in essence, this one here, this title, you're going to see this as like how you saved it. That's what its title is. You can make the title that the user sees slightly different, but for me, I keep them the same. The K12 pH water quality demo. And then every time I do something new, I hit the save button in the bottom right just to be safe. So that way internet connection becomes unstable. I didn't even realize last time I did it. It just becomes automatic for me. I constantly save. So I'm going to click on the description and notice how everything I click on here on the left pops up on the right. So these boxes are where you'll actually make the adjustments. So the description for the survey, I believe I have the same one as the other one. So basically, make sure that you're safe, you're at your location, you've previewed the survey, and that you are ready. I always have students go through and do the actual data collection in their notebook in the location before I have them put it into the survey. So now we have the beginning of our survey. We need to add question types. So we'll click on the add button over here. And for the add button, first thing I need is my date and time. And I want my date and time to be collected automatically from their device. There won't be errors of students inputting the wrong numbers or put them in the wrong order. So I'm going to use the date and time version, and notice how it's always automatically untitled question 1. That will be very difficult to understand when you get a spreadsheet of all the data, what untitled question 1 was. So I'm just going to put in here date and time of data collection. This way, whether I'm using this data or someone else will be able to understand what it is based on the label. So this is going to be a required question. We're going to be submitting date and time. So we click on this default value, submitting date and time. See how it automatically pre-populates right now for when I filmed this video, what day and time it is. If I unclick that, people have to put in information. This way, it is automatic. When we go down to the bottom, I'm going to click hide from survey. So it's kind of grayed out now, but it's still required. This means that the students won't see it, but automatically the date and time from their device is going to be populated into this survey when they submit. So that's all I need for this question. Those parameters are set. I'm going to click save because once again, you want to save constantly so that you remember that you got those iterations of this project done. Otherwise, you might work on this for a while and miss something. So we're going to add some more. The second data point that I need to be collecting here is the location. So in location, you have two options, map and address. I want it to be hyper specific to where they are around that water body, whether they're at a puddle or if they're at a retention pond. Are they on the north side of the retention pond? So I'm going to use the map feature here. And for the map feature, just like all the other questions, it pops up as untitled question 2. That is not going to be good for me to understand when I see this in the format of a spreadsheet. So I'm just going to put location of data collection. This way, I know exactly what these data points are. Sometimes you might be taking the location where the data was collected. Maybe it's where the location of the data was actually tested. You might test it in your lab at another time. So there's a lot of different reasons that you'd pick different locations. So as much detail as possible is useful. So for the drawing tools, these are just data points. I was standing here. This is where I collected. We're not going to be making lines or area. That would work for other projects. So we have our topographic map. I'm just going to leave that the way it is because it is pretty user-friendly for like your first survey. So no default location. We might want to make some changes to this because if we're seeing the entire world here, it might take a long time for a student to zoom in on where they are in Florida. So we use the device's location as much as possible. And we can do it when answering this question or just in general when opening the survey. It's easier either way, depending on what's the situation. So for some surveys, I have it set up where the second you open the survey, it asks you what your location is. But if someone might move around, it might cause a problem. But if you're working on that question, you can, so for this one, I'm going to do it based off that question. But once again, there are reasons to select other options all the time. You just have to think about your user and what data you're collecting. So this is a required question. So every time you click on that, notice it makes the red asterisk. So it has to get completed. But notice we're not going to hide this one from the survey. The previous one we hid, this one we're not, because we need students to interact with this. Our users are going to have to actually make a decision. Here, it's just automatic from their device. So once again, let's click save because every time we work on something, we want to click save, make sure we don't have any moments where we go, oh no, I walked away and I forgot to save and it's gone. There's only one more data collection point that we were going to collect, and that is the pH value of the water. So in looking at all of these different, question types and data input types, the one that makes the most sense is going to be the number one, because we want a number. It's pH. So here we have untitled question 3. So we're going to go in and change that to pH value of water sample. For this one, it's a required question. So there's our asterisk that will help us out a lot. If you are using like maybe a pH probe where you're going to have a decimal point, you won't click on must be an integer. If it's must be an integer, it'll only accept whole numbers as an answer. If you're using maybe pH strips and you want the students to like pick a whole number, so it's either like 3 or 4, 5 or 6, nothing in between, you'd probably click on must be an integer. We definitely want to select a minimum and maximum value because pH has a minimum and maximum value. We do not want students to be able to go over 14. Sorry, 14. So if they try to put in 135, it will immediately tell them, no, you can't submit this. Once again, we're not hiding it from the survey. We want students to interact with it. When they're hidden from the survey, we want it to be automatic through their device. So we're just going to click on save here to make sure that we're all updated. Let's take a look at our preview because it looks like we might be ready. So in our preview, we're going to check to see that the question types actually work. Are we able to click on things and adjust things or not? And if it actually looks the way we expected it on multiple devices. So if we look at the multiple devices, this is the desktop screen, cell phone, tablets. So in here, I should be able to make adjustments. Went way too far, too fast. So let me just pick a spot by the water. So let's say we're at Bonita Beach doing our water quality testing, and right there is where I collected my water. So see, you can just kind of scroll in and out, up and down, click on your spot. You make a mistake and go, oh, wait, that's not exactly where we were at. You can make some adjustments and say, oh, we were actually kind of at the mouth of this area. So that's where we were when we collected our data. For pH value, let's try to put in some ridiculous number like 900. Won't let us. So we'll probably have to put in data that we collected, which hopefully is somewhere around a 7. We should be able to click submit. And that is it. That is our survey right there. So far, all the functionality of the different pieces work. It works on different, screens. Easy to read. So I'm happy with it. We're going to hit that publish button. We're going to double check the modify schema to make sure that the labels are something that we will understand when we see them in a spreadsheet. Notice the label creates the name that you're going to see in the spreadsheet. You definitely want to make sure that you can understand what you're looking at. So we're going to hit publish. We are happy with this. And now we're going to work on the collaboration section, because remember, when you first publish it, it's automatically private and it is not shared with anyone, even people in your organization. It's only shared with you. So we need to change those share features in the collaboration section. We can change the way we share not only the survey itself and who can submit surveys or edit them, but also how we submit and share data. So a lot of good things that we can do in that section for Collaborate to make sure that our survey is going to be used the way we intended. So notice it's telling us, yes, we can share it now, but if you click on share, it's set to private. So we have to go into Collaborate. So Collaborate's right next to the design section. So the two areas to look at are share survey and share results. So for this one, I would like it to ask the user how they are going to do it, because some of my students already use the Survey 123 Field app, others just use in browser. So having it ask at the beginning is the most useful for me. I write surveys for the 5-county region, so it is much easier to make this a public survey than to make individual groups for all of these different organizations. And I'm only a member of my own organization. So what can submitters do? I'm going to have them add their new records. I don't like it when they add an update, so it's just easier for me. But remember, there are plenty of times when this would be useful to use. It's just not useful right now for me. And then, yeah, multiple submissions and accepting responses. I don't like to use draft mode for the same reason I don't like them to update and delete records. I want them to already have their plan and then submit, kind of like using your, like using your notebook first, writing down your data, checking all your work before you submit. So we're going to click save to make sure that that is there. And once we've saved this section, we're going to check on the share results section. And in share results, we're going to be able to have the user get different permissions. So the results should be public in this survey, but once again, check with your district officials if there's any type of data that you don't want to share publicly. They can see all of the records in this survey and view and export data. I'm going to switch this to only their submitted records and only view data because I am going to be sharing this on a dashboard. The more public data after I go through each record, as opposed to them all just being available right away. But I want people to be able to see their own submitted records so they can look back on those. So I'm going to click save. So now I changed all of the different ways I want to share the survey and the results. So if we go back to design here, you'll notice the publish button has the red dot again, which means there are unpublished changes. So if you leave it right now as is, you'll notice you're not going to be able to share it the same way. It's still somewhat private from the original version that's published. You can see it as the shareable one, but when other people log in and try to use it, it's still published under the private. So I know that gets confusing, but always remember to publish your changes. So now that the changes are published, you can just take this survey link, this downloadable QR code, and share with all of the users who are going to be working on this project. I hope that whirlwind tour of making a survey was helpful to you, and definitely check out the